Hey, first grade, I think Georgia wanted to join our math lesson there for a second. Well, just like we started to talk about on Monday, today we're going to continue to talk about fractions. If you can see in the background, there were two words that are already on our anchor chart that we started talking about on Monday. Can you see what they are or even point to them on the video? That's right, we talked about equal and unequal. Well, today we're going to talk about that further when we think about fractions, but we're going to be learning about 3 new vocabulary words today, and I want to read them to you. Whole, half, and fourths. Before we get into that, though, let's take a look and review. What are fractions? According to our PowerPoint right here, it says that fractions are equal parts of a whole. Right? We talked about that concept of equal. They have to be the same. And that's what you worked on Monday, was identifying whether parts of an object were equal or unequal. Well, on here there's the word whole. Let's go ahead and look at the word whole. I think you could probably understand this concept that if mom said, hey, you can have the whole cookie, you would eat the whole thing. You would eat the entire thing. So when we're talking about a whole, it means the entire object. So here I have 3 whole shapes. Can you name those 3 shapes? Let's talk about our second vocabulary word, which is half or halves. If I write it in a fraction symbol, it looks like 1/2. You don't necessarily need to know that, but that's kind of bonus information. Here I've taken 3 different shapes and I've cut them into half or into halves. That means that there are 2 total parts. So this is one whole rectangle, but inside there are 2 parts. Here's one whole square, but inside I have divided it into 2 halves, and this is 1 half. Here is a whole circle, but I've divided it into 2 halves. So we learned about whole, and we learned about half or halves. The next vocabulary word that we're going to be looking at today is the word fourths or quarters, because we can use them interchangeably. Now let's go back and take a second to re-look at halves. We notice that halves are when shapes or something is divided into 2. How many parts do you think a shape might be divided in if we say that there are fourths or quarters? I'll give you a second. If you need a hint, look at these shapes. That's right, they're divided into 4 equal parts. If you didn't even catch it, the word for, F-O-U-R, is right here. And the reason why I included fourths and quarters is because we can use those interchangeably. They can be used, like we can say this is divided into quarters, or we could say this circle is divided into fourths. But what you need to remember most is that when we say fourths or quarters, there are 4 equal parts. Okay, now that we are math masters at those vocabulary words, we are going to be looking at some shapes that are already divided, and we're going to have to decide, are they in its whole? Is it just the whole thing? Is it split into half, or is it split into 2 parts? Or is it split into fourths? It's split into 4 parts. So let's look at the first one together. Here I have a heart. Now I need to see how many parts there are in this whole. Well, I already see that there's 1 part over here and another part over here. So let's count those parts together. 1, 2. Then it's definitely not a whole because there are more than 1 part. Maybe it's a half. Fourths. Oh no, wait, the word 4. There's not 4 parts. There's only 2. So I know that this heart is split in half. Let's look at another one together, would you? Let's look at this circle. How many parts do we see in this circle? Let's count them together. I see 1 up here, 2, 3, and 4. How would we say that this shape is split? Would we say that it's whole? Would we say that it's half? Or would we say that it's fourths? Well, my mathematician brains know, oh, it has 4 parts, so we would say it is split into fourths. So I'm going to put it on this side of my anchor chart. Let's look at this one together. I see a circle, and I don't see that it has any parts. Well, I guess it has 1 part. Only 1 means it's whole. And honestly, if my mom says I can have a whole cookie, I'm going to eat the whole thing. I'm not going to eat half of it. So I'll go ahead and I'll put it over here. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to zoom it up onto the screen. I want you to pause this video, and you have to decide as a mathematician, would we say that that is a whole? Would we say it is split into half? Or would we say that it is split into 4? So remember, once I show it to you, you have to pause the video. What would you say? Is that whole, half, or fourths? Go ahead and pause the video. I would agree. I would say that this is in fourths. Why? Because there are 4 parts. Can you see all of the 4 triangles? 1 up here, 1 in the middle, 1 over here, and 1 on this side. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we would say that that triangle is split into fourths. Let's try one more together. And again, you're going to pause this video and either tell someone around you, your animal around you, your pet elephant. Do you have a pet? No, probably not. Okay. What would we say about this square? How is it divided? Whole, half, or fourths? Pause the video. I think you're right. There's 2 parts. There's a part here and a part here, and 2 parts together makes a half. Awesome job, first grade mathematicians. Today on Seesaw, this is exactly what you're going to be doing. You're going to be looking at a bunch of different shapes that are either in its whole, either split into 2 parts in its half, or split into 4 parts into fourths. And then you're going to color those shapes based on how they're split up. The directions in Seesaw are right at the top, but if you get confused, always come back to this video and notice how we sorted the shapes that we had together. Good luck, you've got this.